In 562 BC, the hall of the state of Jiang was brightly lit. To thank the state of Jiang for mediating the war, treasures and musicians were presented. Duke Dao of Jiang wanted to give half of his property to official Wei Jiang, but he politely declined. Wei Jiang bowed and said, "The Book of Documents says, 'Be vigilant in peacetime. If you are vigilant, you will be prepared, and if you are prepared, you will be safe.'" He urged the monarch not to indulge in comfort but to remain vigilant about hidden dangers. Otherwise, when disaster strikes, the country will be caught off guard and fall into decline. Duke Dao of Jiang, moved by these words, reorganized his army and improved his government, eventually becoming a great hegemon. This conversation turned the phrase "be vigilant in peacetime" into a governing strategy and condensed into the wisdom of the Chinese people in dealing with change over millennia. When Wei Jiang gave his advice, Jiang seemed at its peak, but beneath the surface of prosperity, there were undercurrents. The 12-nation coalition army led by Jiang had just broken through the capital of Jiang, with chariots and flags still displayed outside the city. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of Chu had secretly contacted Wu, planning to spark war on Jin's northern border. More seriously, the 6 noble families were expanding their private armies, weakening the royal family's authority. The musicians presented by Jiang were singing and dancing, masking the fatal hidden dangers of years of war that had left fields barren. Wei Jiang saw these deep-seated crises with his keen insight. Based on his field investigation, he confirmed the crisis was not an empty threat. When visiting the border, Wei Jiang observed that although the Rongdi tribes had temporarily surrendered, their war horses were strong, clearly waiting for an opportunity to invade the south. Upon reviewing the tax records, he found that 30% of the farmland had been abandoned due to young men joining the army, and the granaries held only enough reserves for half a year. Recognizing these crises, Wei Jiang advised Duke Dao of Jiang on 3 reforms: establish an intelligence system to monitor the movements of rival princes, implement the Zhuiyuantian system to allocate abandoned land to military dependents, and organize regular daily exercises to keep the chariot troops battle-ready. These actions created a buffer for Jiang in the shifting balance of power. After Duke Dao of Jiang adopted Wei Jiang's strategy, crisis prediction was transformed into strategic potential. When Chu allied with Wu to invade the north, the Jiang army had already reformed its chariot formations and cut off the enemy's supply line with light armored vehicles. Food and grain reserves had doubled compared to 3 years ago, ensuring sustained combat capability. The reorganization of private soldiers by the 6 noble families turned aristocratic forces into a strategic reserve. In the Battle of Yanling, the Jiang cavalry, which had been dormant for 20 years, defeated the Chu-Wu coalition with swift precision and forced the 12 princes to sign a peace alliance. This victory not only restored Jin's hegemony, but also showcased the wisdom of being prepared for danger in times of peace, with resilient countermeasures turning the threat into a catalyst for system transformation. Wei Jiang's deep insight into the achievements before him reflects the foresight of being prepared for danger in times of peace. In today's world, whether for a company or an individual, this wisdom allows us to analyze the present and address crises dynamically. Huawei invested hundreds of billions in developing spare tire chips during the peak of its communications business. While it seemed to consume current profits, it actually built a technical shield. When the external environment shifted and chip supply was limited, these pre-developed chips quickly turned positive, helping Huawei stay strong amidst the storm. On the national level, China has implemented the strategy of storing grain in the land and in technology. This not only follows agricultural development principles, but also ensures food security by prioritizing cultivated land and advancing seed technology. When global grain prices fluctuate, such reserves and innovations act like the moat Wei Jiang built for Jiang, turning crises into opportunities. Looking back at the dialogue between Wei Jiang and Duke Dao of Jiang, its value has long surpassed specific historical events. The survival rules it reveals are timeless. True security is not about solidifying the status quo, but about establishing a mindset that aligns with natural laws. When individuals and organizations maintain a sober, dangerous thinking attitude in good times, they can adapt and thrive in changing situations, making the wisdom of preparing for a rainy day an enduring beacon through the cycles of life.